That night, her lecturer called her aside. "You've got something rare, Amara. You don't just talk. You move people. Don't stop." Amara walked back to her hostel under the night sky, her voice still echoing in her heart. She was no longer a victim. She was a voice rising. By her third year, Amara had become well known on campus. Not just for her academic comeback or her radio presence, but for the grace and strength she carried herself with. Her story inspired many, even though few knew the full depth of her past. But life wasn't done testing her. One cool Tuesday morning, after a campus fellowship program, she met Daniel. He wasn't loud or flashy like the boys Sandra used to parade around with. He was calm, confident, and observant, the kind of person who saw people before appearances. "I liked what you shared at the media session," he said, walking beside her. "You speak with fire." Amara laughed shyly. "Thank you. I just tell the truth." They talked often after that. Study groups turned into long conversations. Library sessions ended with quiet walks. Daniel didn't try to impress her. He listened, challenged, and respected her. But Amara was cautious. Every time he got close, her mind whispered, "What if he's like your father, blind to pain? What if he leaves? What if love is just another trick?" She started pulling away. Daniel noticed. "You're strong, Amara," he said one evening, "but you don't always have to be. It's okay to let someone in." She didn't reply. Later that night, she prayed, "God, am I allowed to be loved after everything?" She opened her Bible. Her eyes landed on, "Perfect love casts out fear," 1 John 4:18. The next day, she texted Daniel, "Let's talk. I'm ready." And for the first time in a long while, her heart began to open, not in weakness, but in strength. Because healing wasn't just about moving on. It was also about letting love in. Amara and Daniel began spending more time together, but it wasn't the kind of relationship filled with shallow words or public shows. It was quiet, steady, real. He would ask, "Have you eaten today?" She would say, "Let's pray before class." They pushed each other to be better, to think deeper, to rise higher. One afternoon, Amara shared her full story with him. The accident, the stepmother, the beatings, the years of silence. She expected him to flinch, to pity her, but he didn't. Instead, he said, "That pain didn't define you. You rose above it." That strength most people never learn. Her eyes filled with cares, not from sadness, but from relief. Later that semester, Amara was nominated to give a keynote speech at the university's Mass Communication Women in Media Conference. It was a big deal. Alumni, journalists, even national media executives would attend. She panicked at first. "I don't think I can." Daniel interrupted. "You've been speaking all along. Now the world just gets to hear it." On the day of the event, Amara stood before hundreds of people. Her heart pounded. But she looked out at the crowd, remembered every hardship, every tear, every prayer, and she smiled. She began, "My name is Amara Obi. I was once told I'd never rise, that I wasn't worthy of love or success. But today, I stand here not just as a student or a survivor, but as a woman who refused to be silenced." The hall erupted with applause. That evening, her phone rang. It was her father. For the first time in years, his voice trembled. "I watched your speech, Amara. I didn't know. I'm sorry." And just like that, another chain broke, and her wings spread wider. The phone call from her father played over and over in Amara's mind. "I'm sorry." 2 simple words, but heavy with years of blindness and silence. She wanted to cry. She wanted to scream. She wanted to ask, "Where were you when I needed you?" But above all, she wanted peace. That weekend, she traveled home. Her father was waiting at the gate when she arrived, older, slower, guilt lining every wrinkle on his face. He opened his arms, but she paused. Then, slowly, she stepped into them. It wasn't magic. It didn't erase the past. But it was a start. Inside, Mama Nana gave her a cold glance and muttered, "The prodigal daughter returns." Amara didn't react. she had outgrown bitterness. Over dinner, her father cleared his throat. "I've been blind for too long," he said. "You were just a child, and I let you suffer." Tears welled in Amara's eyes. "I wanted to hate you," she whispered. "But God kept telling me I didn't need more hate. I needed healing. I want to fix things," he said. "You can't change the past, Daddy," she said softly. "But you can love Chisholm better than you did me." Silence. Then he nodded. "I will." Before Amara left that weekend, she hugged Chisholm tightly and whispered, "Be strong, be kind, and dream big." The little girl giggled, "Just like you, sister." As the bus pulled away, Amara stared at the receding image of the house that had once held her captive, but no longer did. She wasn't just returning to school. She was returning lighter, freer. Forgiveness hadn't erased the scars, but it gave them meaning. She was no longer surviving. She was healing. Here's the next chapter of Terrors of the Rising Sun. Back on campus, Amara returned with a renewed sense of peace. Her final year had just begun, and the pressure was building: project work, final exams, internship applications, and career plans all swirled in her mind. But unlike before, she wasn't overwhelmed. She was focused. One evening after class, she sat in the library with Daniel and Afima, brainstorming ideas for her final year project. The theme she chose: the media's role in giving voice to the voiceless. It was more than just a topic. It was her truth. She poured her heart into it, interviewing abused girls, children from broken homes, young people who had been silenced by shame. She visited orphanages, schools in rural communities, and used her voice to amplify theirs. Her supervisors were impressed. "This isn't just a project," one of them said. "This is a movement." Meanwhile, her campus radio program gained national attention. A Lagos-based media house reached out, offering her a post-graduation internship, an opportunity many students only dreamed of. But something kept pulling at her heart. "I want to do more than sit behind a mic," she told Daniel one day. "I want to be the change, go into communities, build girls up." She was a graduate, a warrior, and a testimony. When her name was called Amara Obi, Bachelor of Mass Communication with first-class honors, the entire hall erupted. Ifeoma screamed from the crowd. Daniel stood with his arms crossed and a proud smile. Even her father and little Chisholm were present, clapping with joy. Mama Nana wasn't there, but she had sent a message that morning. "Congratulations, Amara. You earned every bit of this. Thank you for showing me that light wins." As she received her certificate, her mind flashed through her journey: her mother's death, the pain, the brokenness, the confusion, and then the rising. That evening at the celebration party, Amara gave a short speech to friends, classmates, and guests. "I didn't come from privilege. I came from pain. But pain doesn't have to destroy us. If we let it, it can teach us how to rise and how to lift others as we rise. This degree isn't just paper. It's proof that even the most broken voices can become the loudest truths." She raised her glass high. "To every girl who has ever been told she can't, you can, and you will." The crowd roared, because Amara didn't just graduate from school. She graduated from her past. After graduation, Amara moved to Lagos to begin her internship at one of the most respected media houses in Nigeria. The city was loud, fast, and full of ambition, and so was she. Every morning, she dressed with purpose. Every evening, she wrote scripts, edited recordings, and produced segments that highlighted real stories, the kind most stations ignored. One of her reports, a piece on young girls denied education in rural communities, gained national attention. Viewers called in, NGOs reached out, and within weeks, an organization offered to sponsor her new Dawn Voices project full-time. It was more than she'd imagined. At the same time, her bond with Daniel deepened. He was now working with a Christian youth foundation, mentoring boys from troubled homes. They were walking parallel roads, different missions, same heart. One quiet evening, after a community outreach, Daniel walked her to her flat. "Amara," he said, taking her hand, I've watched you bloom through pain, rise through fire, and still smile like sunrise. I love you, not for what you do, but for who you are." Her heart fluttered. "I love you too," she whispered. "You've been my anchor." He knelt, pulled out a simple silver ring. "Will you build this future with me?" Tears welled in her eyes. "Yes," she smiled through happy sobs, 1,000 times, yes. That night, Amara wrote in her journal, "I used to cry for escape, now I cry for joy. My story didn't break me, it built me." She closed the book, looked out at the Lagos skyline, and whispered a prayer. Not for escape, but for direction. Because now her life wasn't a survival story. It was a legacy unfolding. Months passed swiftly. The engagement became a beautiful testimony to everyone who had followed Amara's journey, from her fellowship family at school to the young girls at New Dawn Voices. Social media was flooded with pictures of Amara and Daniel, captions filled with words like hope, grace, and God's timing. But Amara wasn't interested in the glamour of weddings. What mattered more was what she and Daniel were building, a life of impact. She expanded New Dawn Voices into a foundation, with offices in 3 states. Young women were being mentored, sponsored through school, and trained in digital media and communication. Meanwhile, Amara began hosting a weekly national radio show titled From the Ashes. She invited survivors of abuse, poverty, abandonment to share their stories. Each episode sparked conversations, healing, and nationwide awareness. One day, after a powerful broadcast, she received a letter. The handwriting was unfamiliar, shaky. "Dear Amara, I'm writing from a weary prison. I heard your story on the radio. I was one of those boys who caused girls pain. I thought life owed me nothing, so I gave nothing. But today, I listened, and I wept. If you can rise, maybe I can too." She sat in silence, holding the letter to her chest. Her voice was reaching prisons. Her healing was freeing others. Later that month, she visited her mother's graveside, the place where it all began. She knelt by the headstone, flowers in hand. "I made it, Mama," she whispered. "I didn't just survive. I became everything you would have wanted me to be." The wind rustled the leaves like an answer. She stood, stronger than ever. The church was filled with soft music, gentle sunlight, and the sweet scent of white roses. Family, friends, and mentors gathered, not just for a wedding, but for a celebration of grace. Amara walked down the aisle in a simple, elegant gown. Not overly decorated, but beautiful in its purity, just like her life. Her father walked beside her, tears silently streaming down his face. "I'm proud of you," he whispered, "so proud." At the altar, Daniel stood waiting, smiling with quiet awe. As she reached him, their eyes locked, not with the nervousness of uncertainty, but with the steadiness of purpose. The vows were personal, raw, sacred. "I vow to protect your peace," Daniel said. "And I vow to never forget where we came from," Amara replied, "to lift others even as we rise." When the pastor pronounced them husband and wife, the crowd erupted. Even Mama Nena, sitting in the second row, clapped with a genuine smile. Her heart finally softened. Later that night, under the stars, Amara sat with Daniel by the bonfire at their reception. They laughed, shared cake, and danced with barefoot joy. At some point, Ifeoma pulled her aside. "You know this isn't the end, right?" She grinned. "It's just the beginning." Amara nodded. "I know, I'm ready." In the days that followed, Amara and Daniel launched their first joint project, Voices of Purpose, a foundation that combined mentorship for boys and girls, vocational training, and Christian leadership programs across Nigeria. The girl who once longed to run away now stood rooted, building homes of healing for others. And so, from the ashes of her childhood, from the silence of her pain, from the tears of endless nights, Amara rose, not just to shine, but to light the way for others.